I think I hit the button. Hi. So, yep, been doing this for a couple weeks now, and I'm still terrible at it. So, hi everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the Astra's Cat Yodi Veterinary Medicine charity stream. Uh, as usual, I will start this with my typical spiel, which is to say everything that I will be saying tonight is based purely off of my own education and experience. If you have any questions or concerns, please always consult an actual veterinarian first. I am only a veterinary technician. And I say that as an only because they have a lot more skill than I do, and a lot more education, and a lot more cool stuff that they have learned. So please make sure that you consult anybody, because nobody knows their pet quite like you do, and having you explain it to a actual veterinary professional, which is to say a veterinary doctor, is the best route. So let's see here. I'm going to do a couple of things here. Hang on. Figuring a couple things out. So tonight's topic is going to be about anal glands. Yes, I called them butt glands because not everybody wants to see the word anal on their timeline. But yes, they are in fact anal glands, and it's going to be a very interesting topic. I apologize if it gets really gross. I apologize in advance for those of you who are a little bit more squeamish. Considering the fact that the times being what they are, I am going to try and keep this section a little bit short so that I can address some more timely topics right now. I'm going to see if I can't address a little bit of the issue of race in veterinary medicine and representation thereof. So anyway, now that I've managed to get a couple other things all taken care of, let's go ahead and no, what did I do? I think I went to the wrong. No. Yeah, I went to the wrong thing. Yes. Return to the main menu. Oh, maybe I did go to the right one. Did I go to the right one? Okay. Well, either way, now it's gone to the right one. Anyway, so tonight we're playing Ori and the Blind Forest. I have managed to complete so far 2 of the 3 dungeons, as it were. I have no idea where I left off. I think I was going that way. I'm supposed to go to oh, hell. I'm supposed to go to Sorrow Pass. Anyway, so, yes. Let's talk about anal glands. So, in general, everybody is aware that skunks have little sacs that sit at the back end of their behinds. They are, in fact, internal. And when things frighten them or pose a threat, they will express those glands to, well, give off a very distinct, hey, don't fuck with me vibe. What you don't know necessarily is that dogs and cats have these as well. That is something actually that a lot of people don't know. We used to remove them in dogs because it was something that was troublesome and problematic and whatnot. But we just sort of figured, oh, well, we'll get rid of it and then it won't be an issue anymore and people don't have to worry about keeping them healthy. But what we discovered was that surgery was actually causing dogs to become somewhat incontinent by virtue of the fact that we would accidentally nick a very important nerve that would control the anal sphincter control, and dogs would basically then have no ability to poop properly. So, as you might have guessed, we stopped doing that because nobody wants to have a dog that can't poop properly. God damn it. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, this is a common occurrence for me. I die a lot. I also die in the same place frequently because I suck. But anyway. So, we stopped removing anal glands, or depending on your squeamishness, anal sacs. I don't like calling them anal sacs because that sounds too much like anal sex, and please don't ever confuse that with a dog. That's a completely different thread altogether. But dogs and cats both have them, and they fill with a nasty little material. It's supposed to be liquidy, and when they poop, the act of pooping, the tension of the poop on the sphincter, will actually cause them to, that's the save button, will cause them to express. So basically, anytime they poop, a little bit of this nasty smelling liquid comes out. Now, why do they have this, you may ask? It's a very good question because, ew. But the reason that they have them is it's basically their calling card. It's their own personal scent. That is how they basically leave markers on their poop. If you've noticed, dogs and cats will sniff at poop and be like, ooh, this is interesting. It's like, dude, it's poop. But to them, it's a calling card. It basically indicates the health, sexual status, or sex, or age, or really anything else of a given animal. So that's very important as a form of communication amongst them and others of their kind. For example, if you were an adult male dog and you smelt an adult male female who's in estrus, leaving her insignia here and there, you'd want to go find her. So, these are all things that are biologically ingrained. So, wait, I don't need that. Stop that. When it comes to cats, similar. They do basically the same thing. The way it looks is basically, if you're thinking of, okay, we'll use this tree as a point of reference. If this is the butthole, there's an anal gland over here, and there's an anal gland over here. There's just two. And they're basically at the, the 8 and 4 position of the sphincter. Now, whenever they poo, they express a little bit, provided that it is in fact that liquidy texture. But things can go wrong with these little glands, and they can become infected. They can become impacted, where they literally cannot express themselves. If you've ever seen a dog scooting on the carpet, a lot of people will attribute that to worms. It's not actually usually worms. It's usually their anal glands being difficult to express, and that's them trying to express them themselves by forming some kind of pressure against them. So that is something to... Why did I bother saving right there when there's a save point right here? So that's something to note. If you notice your dog or your cat, usually it's dogs, scooting their butts on your carpet. Sometimes they'll do it on brick, and I'm just like, why would you ever do that, dude? That's some sensitive junk down there. Oh, right, I have the little thingy that allows me to do this now. It's left button. Ah. That's why I wanted to go and get this thing. Hello, whoever recently joined me. So yes, if you notice your dog scooting on the carpet or on brick or on grass or whatever it happens to be, take them to a veterinarian or a groomer even and say, hey, my dog's been licking and scooting at his back end. That's another one, excessive licking at the back end, because again, they're trying to stimulate the area to express those little glands. Hang on a second, I'm going to see if I can do a thing. Just in time for dinner. Yeah, no shit, right? Oops. I left myself on that small screen. I'm sorry, everybody. But again. So what that typically means is that the animal is having trouble and needs to have them expressed manually. Now, when I say manually, I do actually mean a mano. It's done by hand. Now, in the veterinary industry, we do this by hand with gloves. With gloves. Please, for the love of God, with gloves. I've never seen a person try to do it without gloves because, ew, considering what I'm about to explain. So in the veterinary industry, we express glands internally, which means we stick a finger up the bum. We do the old turn your head and cough, and we stick a forefinger up the rear end so that we can then put some pressure on that sphincter. And you can usually feel them. They're about the size of a pea when they're healthy. They're a little bit bigger when they're not. If you have a dog with an impacted anal gland that hasn't expressed in a long time, they can get to be about the size of grapes. I think the biggest one I've ever encountered was about the size of a cherry tomato. It was pretty bad. Now, thankfully, that animal did not have it rupture, so I'll get to that in a little bit. Go up the thing. I say a lot. I'm really sorry about that. So with cats and dogs, it's basically the same thing. For the record, is you will note that is just it's across the board. Same problems will afflict them. It's usually dogs that have them, but cats can have these exact same problems as well. So don't think that your cat's immune just because it's a cat. So don't squish me. When they need to be expressed, it's usually as a result of them not having the proper consistency. And by that I mean, remember how I said that it's supposed to be liquidy, and if it's not, then it might be thick, like toothpaste, or dry. And I can't even think of anything that would be similar to it. Let me think of it for a second here. What's a good analogy? Like, I don't know. It's almost like dry toothpaste is the thing. It's supposed to be a gland, and it's not being glandular at all. It's, oh, why did I do that? That was stupid. Let's see, can I... Maybe I can do that. Because I'm a badass. Not really. I die a lot. Anyway, so the consistency of the gland material that we like to call it, we don't like to call it juice or anything like that, but it's basically butt juice, can vary. And it can vary for multiple reasons. So it's not something that you can blame yourself for, really. If you've got an animal with chronic anal gland problems, it's not necessarily because you did something wrong. It may not necessarily be because of their diet. It may just be genetic. That's sometimes just how the cookie crumbles. I've seen some dogs come in with severe, just absolutely severe anal gland issues where they have to be in literally every other week. I wish I was exaggerating, but like literally every other week we see this animal to express their anal glands because they will not express on their own. Sometimes diet can help. If you have an animal that is on a particularly low fiber diet, sometimes it can help to get them something with a little bit more fiber in it, because if they don't have enough fiber, the feces, the poop, won't be terribly solid, and so it won't push on those glands like I was telling you about it should. So that's something to consider if you have an animal with chronic anal gland problems. So try giving them a little extra fiber. One of the things we frequently recommend is canned pumpkin, because it's basically just fiber with maybe a little bit of sugars in it, but not by much. You don't want to give them high proteins or even yogurt, because, as I explained in my last episode, dogs and cats are lactose intolerant, and what you'll end up doing is giving them diarrhea. So don't do that. How far up can I go? Ooh, there's a thing. Thank you, yes. See, this is why I like to go explore before I go into the next dungeon, so that I can get cool shit like this. Ooh, wait, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Whew, that was close. Okay, fine. Sometimes the controls on this can be a little twitchy. Down will automatically make you do that, whether you want to or not. Sometimes that'll kill you. I couldn't get through that last time. Let's see if I can this time. Ow! Piranha. Rude. So what do you do with an animal with impacted glands? Well, you can express it by going in, as I said, manually and basically popping it like a huge zit. Sounds disgusting. It kind of is. It smells foul. And frankly, none of us really enjoy doing it unless you're one of those weird sick people. Spoiler alert, that would be me. I actually really do enjoy, like, expressing them because it's that satisfying kind of squeeze pop. But anyway, I don't like the butt part of it, though. So that's just gross. Ow. God damn it. Fuck off. Guess I'll save it for a second. Christ. But it's the same reason that I like doing toenails on really gnarly toes. Because, like, you come in with this just absolutely horrendous thing and it's instant gratification. Where it's just, I fixed this thing. My husband's probably going to be really mad at me for admitting that out loud, by the way. So anyway. I'd be like, you're gross. Who does that? Is there any kind of breed that seems to be more prone to gland problems? No, actually. There doesn't seem to be a particular breed. It doesn't even seem to be a particular size issue. Normally when I see issues of animals like, oh, you have dental issues, it's usually smaller dogs. Oh, you have arthritis issues, it's usually larger dogs. That sort of a thing. But there aren't really any particular breeds that have anal gland problems in general. The one that I was telling you about that came in every other week was Doberman, for example. Not exactly the thing that I would have pegged for having chronic problems in that regard, but there's also a Chihuahua that comes into my clinic now. Comes in every 2 weeks. This poor little thing is a genetic disaster. It's not her fault. But it is what it is. She comes in, she has to have him expressed. She's got mega esophagus. She's got, which for those of you who don't know what that is basically all the sphincters in her esophagus failed. To put it in crude layman's terms, she can't swallow. She has to sit up in order to actually eat properly. So, you know, it might actually be just a thing that's wrong with that kind of connective tissue in her. I don't know. But I've seen it on everything from Chihuahuas to Great Danes. It's not any particular breed. It's not even any particular size. I can tell you that some are better about having it done on them than others. Nobody likes doing it on Dachshunds. Nobody likes doing it on Chihuahuas. And nobody likes doing it on Basset Hounds or Shiba Inus because they are absolute drama queens. So what happens if you don't express the gland and it's too thick to express on its own? Well, that's when you get what's called impaction. Impaction, basically, imagine filling up a water balloon and never taking that water balloon off the faucet. It gets to a point where it can't express anymore, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds. Why am I going this way? That was a stupid idea. Until the pressure is so great that it seals up the hole. The way that it would go out, it no longer can. So you have to gently express it manually because it's not going to come out on its own. And if you wait too long, that's when you get what's called an abscess. Now, you've probably heard the term abscess before. Imagine what happens if you have an abscess of a big-ass gland. It's bad news. It's very bad news. Abscesses are what happens when things get infected. And yeah, it's about as fun as it sounds. Can I go up here without... Nope. I want to just... Can I... Aha! Wait. Oh, it is on the other side. Shit. All right. So an abscess basically is when it becomes so inflamed and so impacted and so pissed off that you literally just... It's bad news now. You've got pus in there now. You've got bacteria in there now. You've got all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly, horrible things that are just going to wreak havoc on the system in there. And should it get too bad, you will end up with it exploding. And I can tell you, I have seen my fair share of abscessed anal glands. They will look like the back end is swollen, because it is. It will appear red, and it may even appear shiny from the tension in the skin. If you've gotten to this point, you need to go to a veterinarian ASAP. The reason that I say this is because the only thing to do at that point is, frankly, antibiotics and expression and possibly flush it out. There's not much else you can do at that point. If you try to just let it self-resolve, it's been impacted at this point, it's going to rupture. And when I say that it ruptures, I mean it really and truly explodes out the back end. I've seen some people say, you know, oh, my dog chewed at its back end and now it's all raw, and there's a hole, and it's like that's not from the chewing. That's literally from the skin exploding from the tension of that abscess, and it's ugly and it's horrible and it smells bad. And as you can imagine, being right next to the rectum, there's a lot of bacteria. That wound will get infected really fast. And then you need to have medical intervention if you want them to heal up. I've seen those go pretty south pretty quickly. So, yeah, that's why you want to take care of your dog and cat's butt glands. Now, like I said, most cats are typically a little bit better about it. I don't know if that's because cats are just better about licking their butts. I really don't know. But I have run into cats that have impacted and even infected anal glands before as well. So it's not unique to dogs by any stretch. Typically, you can have glands expressed at, say, a groomer. Now, when I say typically, I mean good, healthy, ordinary, doesn't need a whole lot of maintenance anal glands. The reason I say that is because if any of the reasons that I mentioned before have become a problem, such as you have an infection or an impaction, and you try to have it expressed by a groomer, this is not to talk shit about groomers at all. Groomers will do things from externally, which is to say they don't glove up with the... Well, I don't know if they glove up or not. I would really hope they do. They certainly do not stick their finger in the rectum, because that's just not what they do. Can I just go up? Oh, I can! Ooh-wee! They will squeeze it from the outside, kind of like when you're trying to squeeze a blackhead, I guess is a good way of trying to say it. If you find a blackhead on your forehead or whatever, you obviously can't go behind it. So they just kind of pinch it from the outside and take care of it that way. And it's really effective for maintenance, especially on you know, just your standard animal. So if you take your animals in to get groomed and you've noticed that they've been scooting their butts, you might consider saying, hey, while you're grooming my dog, can you express their glands? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, sure. Or, you know, we don't do that here. But usually they do. It's just as simple as a nail trim, frankly, depending on how cooperative the animal is. Cats we don't normally do, at the very least, not while they're awake, because cats... How do I phrase this without it sounding awful? Okay, there isn't a way. So cats have Fort Knox for an ass. I'm just going to put that out there bluntly. They have 2 sets of sphincters. And sphincter number 1 is the one everybody thinks of, you know, oh, hey, that keeps, you know, the poop from just falling out of the butt. But they have a second one, maybe a centimeter in, that, like, literally they can lock that shit down. It is just so freaking hard to get a temperature on them sometimes, because they just lock their butts down and you can't get a thermometer in there. It is that hard. So we don't usually stick our fingers in there unless we have to, because they get real pissed about it. And we like our skin, and cats have, you know, lots of pointy bits. Right. Yeah. That's, unfortunately, you're not wrong. Abscessed anal gland can kill them. And it is in the rectum. So, those are all things to consider when it comes to cats and dogs and their butt health. What can you do about it? Stay on top of it. If it becomes a problem, your veterinarian will let you know. Like I said, if you see any signs of them licking or chewing excessively at their back ends, if you notice them scooting, if you notice them looking like they're trying to poop and having difficulty with it, definitely go see a veterinarian, because that it is time to get that checked. Am I going the wrong way? I think I'm going the wrong way. No, I'm going the right way. Wait, no, I need to go that way. Well, poop snacks. I'm gonna get this little... Oh god, he's on fire. Nobody told me these things were all catching on fire. What the shit? Fuck off. There. Oh, I haven't saved it in a while, have I? There we go. Die, you flaming gobsnot. There, okay. Sorry, I saw this on the map. I really wanted it. So that I die less frequently. Yay! So yeah, check in with your groomers. Say if they can do routine anal gland expressions, because, you know, it doesn't hurt to express them, even if they don't have trouble with it. It's not like you're going to cause the sphincter to atrophy or something to that effect. It's not a problem in that regard. You're not going to cause problems by being proactive in that regard. Cats, really, honestly, I'm not sure what to tell you. Because they're such strange little beasts that it's just kind of like, okay, well, yay, you have butt problems. I have to knock you out now. Can I just leap? There's no way for me to get up there right now, is there? Shit. Oh, I bet I come in through the other side. F me sideways. So diet can help. If you keep an eye on their diet, make sure that they have adequate fiber, that kind of a thing, that can help. Oh right, the water's not toxic anymore. But other than that, just kind of keep an eye on your pet. Notice if they've got any problems, if they're having difficulty with the whole butt thing, and if you notice problems, then that's not gonna go. Then take him to a veterinarian. So that's pretty much it that I'm going to go over for butt glands tonight. I was going to make an entire episode about this. I could tell all kinds of stories and examples and other such things, but what I really want to talk about today is something a little bit more topical and a bit more current events. Some may lambaste me for jumping on the bandwagon, I guess, but let's talk about race. Let's talk about race and vet med. So you would not think of veterinary medicine as being particularly racist, but there are race ambiguities and what's the word I'm looking for? Inequalities that really should be addressed. And this whole series of current events has really kind of brought that to the forefront, because we're starting to really look at it from a more modern perspective of, hey, do we need to address something? Is this something that is a problem that we haven't been looking at? And its truth is, we haven't. We really should be. An example would be representation, honestly, in veterinary medicine. I know that sounds kind of trite, but you'll talk about the representation in other STEM fields, engineering, chemistry, any other form of medicine, and everybody acknowledges that that's the case, that that's real, that that's a thing. But something that a lot of people don't really think about, I think, is veterinary medicine being a STEM field. It is medicine, for heaven's sakes. It is something that we need to look at and address. So that being the case, it's important to acknowledge that there aren't a lot of people of color in veterinary medicine. There just aren't. Granted, I have known a few, but they are few, and they are few and far between. They are not the dominant aspect, nor are they even considered necessarily half, in my experience, of the veterinary workforce. I would say personally that they make up probably a quarter, and that's only from my own personal experience. I don't know what the statistics are on that one. I meant to look them up before I started, but I didn't get around to it because I'm a lazy bastard. But the vast majority of them even seem to be technicians rather than actual veterinarians. Curious, is it there just a single duct that comes out from the glanders? Oh, no, it is a single duct. Veterinary. Anal glands are... they're basically balloons. They have one entrance, one exit, and they fill up, and then they go out through that hole. But props and bonus points for knowing that nipples are multiple ducts coming out of one gland, or rather a series of glands, because they are complicated in that regard. But yeah, they're just a single gland with a single duct. So in my experience, the vast majority of people of color in veterinary medicine have been technicians and lab nurses, lab technicians, kennel techs, but not usually veterinarians. And that's not to say that they are not capable, but I do think that potentially it is something that is at the fault of the system in which we decide who goes to veterinary medicine and who doesn't. Because it is a highly competitive field, and that's great because we want to have the best people in the field. But we know very well, speaking candidly here, that the system by which we go on merit, in quotation marks, for businesses, for jobs, and yes, for competitive roles in schools, is not always as honest as we'd pretend it to be. So that is something that I think could be addressed in multiple ways, frankly. So I think we should look at enrollment rates. Oh, Jesus, fuck me Christ. Okay, so don't go that way. I think we need to look at enrollment rates of people of color in veterinary school. I think we need to look at inspiring children of color to potentially aspire to veterinary medicine. I don't think we do that enough. And I think we need to leave those options open as, hey, you don't have to be necessarily a full-on veterinarian. I think you can also be a technician or a lab scientist if you want to. There is no fucking other way for me to go up there, is there? Okay. It was at one point in time considered a very sexist field. Much like any other medicine, once upon a time, it was considered a male-dominated field. But times changed, and it became much more of a women-dominated field. Which is a funny thing to say now in retrospect, because you've got some pretty heavy sexism behind that reasoning. A lot of men will see veterinary medicine as lesser than or secondary to human medicine. And so they view veterinary professionals, specifically veterinarians, as lesser or less than. And they see that as more fitting for women as a result. So just because women make up a dominant force in veterinary medicine now does not at all mean that we are out of the woods in that regard. Not even close. I would say actually it's it's gone so far it's come the other way around, where it's like, oh, that's women's work. You know, you can't be a real doctor, so we're going to have you do animal medicine instead. And that's sexist in its own right. So it's no surprise to me then that it's kind of difficult to find any people of color in veterinary medicine, to be completely honest. Now, let's talk about how that works for our clients. Not just on a trust base for, hey, my doctor is fairly representative of my demographic also. But let's talk a little bit about how racism affects the veterinary industry in general. Because I'm going to be real honest with you here. There's some pretty heavy racism in veterinary medicine. And it's not because we want there to be. It's not a fault of the system itself. But there is some pretty disgusting judgment based on various demographics. So let me give you some examples here. This is going to be real uncomfortable, but we need to talk about it. A woman comes in with an 8-week-old puppy, Chihuahua, and she happens to be Hispanic. Everyone will assume that she is going to not spay or neuter this animal, just right off the bat. And there is a little bit of truth to that. For whatever reason, there seems to be a machismo effect in the Hispanic community where they don't like fixing their dogs because it makes them feel like less of an animal. But that prejudice should not be there regardless. That assumption is unfair and it is racist. Another one. Let's say a black gentleman comes in with a new puppy and says, I have a new puppy. They're going to automatically assume when they're doing that write-up before the person even comes in, again, prejudice, that it's either a German Shepherd mix or a German Shepherd just as is, or it's a pit bull. Is it right? Maybe. Is it right in a moral sense? Absolutely not. It is absolutely 100% racist to have that kind of prejudice of, oh, well, you're this demographic, therefore you must clearly have this kind of animal, or you're going to have this kind of attitude towards your care. It's completely unfair. And there's a little bit of socioeconomic factor to that as well, because I have seen doctors say don't even bother because they're not going to be able to afford it to people, and be awfully surprised when they do actually elect for the expensive treatments, because you can never really truly judge about people like that. It's just not fucking fair. And yet it happens. And that's something that needs to be changed in veterinary medicine, because it is not what is best for the animal. It is not fair to the client. It's just not okay. It's not okay on any stretch. So that is a very uncomfortable thing to bring up, but one that needs to be brought up. There needs to be a higher amount of representation in the veterinary field of people of color. And I mean that of all people of color. I know that right now it's Black Lives Matter is very much at the forefront, but there needs to be more representation of Hispanic people in veterinary medicine. There needs to be more representation of Asian people in veterinary medicine. It's just across the board. It's largely a white-dominated field. Now, what's funny, and I don't mean funny haha, but I do mean irony here, to me, is that a lot of veterinary students will get their education abroad and then come back and practice in the US and still hold some of these fairly racist, whether or not they're intentional or not, views. And that's honestly a little hilarious when you think of it, because here you've got someone who is literally going overseas, whether it's to an island, which is fairly common, frankly, or to somewhere in Europe, the UK, wherever it happens to be, and yet they still hold these views, and it's a little confusing, frankly, how you can experience another culture and then still have the kind of prejudging based on race ideas and concepts that many do, whether or not they mean to. So that's my personal take on it. I would love to see more studies put out in terms of demographics as to who my fellow technicians are by race, who my fellow veterinarians are by race. Because frankly, I know the numbers are going to be abysmal, but I want to know what they are. I want to know how far behind we are in that regard. I want to know where we can improve in terms of representation and reaching out, because I know that there is some truth to representation matters even in face-to-face business. If you've got somebody who looks like you, comes from the same background as you, has similar life experiences to you, you may open up to them more. You may have more trust in them. And ultimately, the client-veterinarian relationship has to be built on trust. So if we can find a better way of bridging the gap and reaching out and getting more young people of every background to look into veterinary medicine as a field, I think we would be a lot richer for it. I know that there is a desire to practice medicine out there amongst many different nationalities, races, cultures, backgrounds. But I think it's being missed. And I don't personally know how to fix that. I'm not that awesome. I have a few ideas. Like I said, you might look at how we enroll veterinary students, but I can't think of anything else other than just promoting it as, hey, look at this as a career path. This is something for you. You belong here. And making it accessible and just, I don't know how else to phrase it. Accessibility, believability, you can do this. I don't know what else we need to be doing to throw that out there. But if anybody else has any ideas, by all means, throw them out. I still think we could be doing a better job even if we were a better industry than most. But I think we're lacking, honestly. In my own personal experience, my belief is that we are sorely lacking in inequality in that regard. Hang on, I'm formulating some thoughts. Oh, yay. Things that'll smash me. So other than the actual honest-to-God prejudice that occurs within my work, and addressing the inequalities and the lack of representation amongst people of color in veterinary medicine, I'm not sure what else to bring up in that regard. Okay, so I'm gonna have to double drop. I do want to bring up, actually, since I'm on the subject, the concept that there is some pretty heavy racism in breedism as well. Breed-specific legislation is a bunch of bullshit. I'm going to throw the police under the bus on this one, actually, because they deserve it, and it is exactly where they belong in this regard. Dog bites are abysmally reported. 9 times out of 10, when you hear of a dog bite report, if they don't know the breed, if they can't readily identify, oh, this is an Affenpinscher, or, oh, this is a Schnauzer, if they can't, immediately identify this is a German Shepherd, they're going to put it down as a pit bull, or a pit bull mix. And that is ridiculously unfair. Considering the fact that pit bulls are often associated with people of color in terms of demographics, in terms of just hype and stereotype. It is legislation that is not just breed specific, but also people specific in that regard. And it is not okay. That is something that should be pushed back against. If I don't, oh, geez. Yeah, pities are awesome, by the way. Oh, hey, hang on a second. I never did post the link to the charity, by the way. I am, in fact, right now raising money for the Bail Project. I'm going to drop the link right here in the comments. Wha-bam! 33 widest jobs in America. Yeah, I would believe it. And that makes me very uncomfortable, but it needs to be addressed. I don't care how uncomfortable I am about it. Mostly it makes me uncomfortable because it's like, damn, I expected better of us. Because here we are trying not to judge based on breed, and here we are judging based on people. That's not better. That's not okay. So, I mean, you've got... Did I just close the thing I opened? God damn it. I do that a lot in this game. So, in the sequel, by the way, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, if you switch a switch, that switch is switched. You don't have to worry about accidentally switching that switch back. It's very handy. It's very nice. Can I, like... No? I don't know how to do it backwards. Shit. But yeah, it's less breed specific than it is people specific legislation, which is, as you might expect, bullshit. Oh, I missed something back there. Okay, just go up and to the left. Whee! There. And it's really stupid, frankly, and part of that can be seen in the fact that it doesn't actually seem to be the breed itself that people are pissed about. It's the image. People are like, oh, you know, they're violent, they're such bad dogs, and they have all these misconceptions about, oh, their brains swell and can't fit inside their heads anymore and they go crazy. That's a load of bullshit, by the way. Or, you know, they'll turn on you at the moment's notice. No, they won't. That's not how it works. Any dog can and will have their own, like, things in that regard. I almost called them quirks, but that's not the word I want to use. The reason I say that is because I have heard just as many stories in veterinary medicine of Rottweilers who were big, sweet pussycat dogs that turned around and bit the shit out of their owners. Now, knowing what I know about dog behavior, there was provocation somewhere. What it is or what it was that caused it, I do not know, because I obviously wasn't there. But I can tell you that dogs don't just do things without reason. They've either been trained a certain way, or they have been raised a certain way, or they have had certain experiences that taught them that this behavior was the only way to stay safe, or whatever it happens to be. But I can tell you that pitties are not any more likely to just turn on you than any other animal. I mean, it's bullshit. Oh God, don't even bring up the German Shepherds with the hindquarters. They're basically plantigrade. There was a dog show a couple of years back. I want to say it was, honest to God, I think it was the, what's that really big one? The Westminster Dog Show. And I saw the German Shepherd that won that thing, and I was absolutely fucking furious. The hocks on that dog were slapping the ground. Oh, no, I do want you on. No, turn on. There we go. It was the hip dysplasia that's going to come up in that dog, the osteoarthritis is just why? Why would you ever breed that into an animal? And why would you ever praise it as being an ideal of the breed? But then again, we come back to, as you said, the bulldogs with the overpronounced underbites that can't breathe. There's a joke in veterinary medicine that isn't really all that funny, of us intubating a patient for an anesthetic procedure like a spay or a neuter, and saying, well, this is the best time you're ever going to have of breathing, and you're not even going to be awake for it. And we literally wait until those animals are chewing those ET tubes out before we take them out, because it's like, we are not taking any risks of your trachea just deciding, you know what, I wasn't all that awake anyway, and up and dying on us just because your breed has been fashioned this way. It's ludicrous. But to get back to the original subject, breed-specific legislature is racist, frankly. It's against poor people, it's against black people, it's against really anybody of color, because anybody of Hispanic descent who owns a pit bull is just as apt to be singled out in that regard. It's like, how dare you have this dog? And it's just ugly. It's just fucking ugly, and I can't stand it. Temperament can be bred for. Terriers are definitely more hyperactive. I will absolutely 100% agree with that. That's because they're ratter dogs. That's their job. I will state also that... oh shit, I'm gonna die. Nobody told me that there was no ground. Golden retrievers are bred for their temperament and are generally just the sweetest monsters ever. Bernese mountain dogs, Newfies. Newfies are intensely sweet dogs. If you gotta try and piss off a Newfie. They're basically rugs. Like, there's somewhere that I don't have a map stone for, and I'm trying to figure out where it goes, and I don't even know. It's like I have an extra map stone, and I don't know why. But, yeah, there are some animals that are bred for their temperaments, and it is doable. But that does not mean that pit bulls are automatically considered one temperament or another. Pit bulls, by and large, are one of two modes in the veterinary office that I've experienced. One mode is, I'm so happy I'm going to accidentally damage you because of how happy I am. That is mode number one, and that one I hear a lot. Oh god, yeah, Bernies do definitely have their own health problems, that's true. Mode number two for pit bulls is, I think you're trying to attack my family, and therefore you are my enemy. It's almost always about them being protective. The only time I've ever met a pit bull that I actually didn't like, I think it was, and this is going to be blasphemy amongst the furries, but I think he was honestly just a bad dog. I know that we like to say that there are no bad dogs, there are only bad people. This animal was already trying to bite people to do damage by the time he was 4 months old. And the only way we could do anything with him at all was by sedating him. We managed to convince the owner to fix him, because it's like, you do not want this animal breeding, dude. There's something going on here that that we don't understand. And I don't know if he just was hyper protective because he was fine around his people, or if it was a situation of him just being taught from being a puppy that people aren't to be trusted except for these people, because his owners could handle him okay. They were fine, but anybody else, it wouldn't happen. So I don't know what was going on with that dog. my suspicion was that he was just a bad dog, but it's possible too that he was not a bad dog and just had bad experiences. That has been known to happen. Sweet, I figured out how to open that. But yeah, generally speaking, it's not typically that. It's usually big, dopey puppy dogs that don't know their own strength. I have had bruises from pit bulls who didn't mean any harm at all, and in fact weren't even paying attention to me, because you gotta watch out for those tails, my god. Those tails are weapons. They don't mean them to be, but they are. I've had them jump on me because they're super excited and their people didn't teach them to not jump. And they had very long nails at the time, and that hurt. And they left big old bruises. Again, it wasn't out of malice. So the concept of the bad pit bull is one that I do not hold to. I just don't. And it's not out of a false, oh, give every breed a chance, because I'll admit, I'm breedist. There are some breeds that I just don't think, no. Why would you ever own that? But yeah, it's not those breeds that are the ones that are against breed-specific legislature now, is it? So, I do think racism is unfortunately alive and well in the veterinary world. Not just in representation in the field, but also in the way that we treat our clients. We can do better. We should do better. And to that end, to drive my point home, breed-specific legislature is a load of malarkey. Not sure what else I can add at this point. I do know that we are working to address it now. Ow, son of a bitch. That we are working to address it. I've seen some very prominent members of the veterinary community come forth and say, I didn't realize how big of a problem this was. I didn't know that it was so dramatic of a problem. Let's do better. And reaching out and trying to improve. Because frankly, we're not going to get anywhere if we don't have people wanting to improve. We can do better, we should do better, but we have to start somewhere. And since we're all, well, not all, but since a lot of us are kind of coming to terms with the fact that this is even a problem in the first place, like, learning is going to be the name of the game. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, and we're going to be clumsy, and we're going to be dumb about it, and there's going to be a lot of problems. But we're trying. We are trying to make this work. We are trying to make it better. It's going to be a long, slow, arduous process. I'm very aware of that now. But if we don't try, we're never going to make it better. It's just never going to improve. So, does anybody have any questions in that regard? What time is it? Oh, shit. We're about time. No, not that button. Anybody have any questions about butt glands, since we're thinking about it? As well as racism in veterinary medicine. You can even ask me what breeds I don't particularly like. Though you're not going to like the answers, I promise. I will state for the record that most people in veterinary medicine are, at least to some degree, a little bit breedist. And that's not necessarily out of a sense of malice, but we've had one too many bad experiences with this or that breed, is usually where that comes from. So, what breeds don't I like? Huskies, frankly. I really do not enjoy working with Huskies. The vast majority of them are extremely neurotic, over-energetic, poorly trained, seldom socialized, and often as not, they are just drama queens extraordinaire. I do not like Huskies, Sam. I do not like them. However, they're not alone. I'm not a big fan of German Shepherds either, frankly, because German Shepherds are similarly very poorly socialized, very poorly trained, and typically somehow, much like the Husky, they're super popular. And so I run into a lot of them, and they're just absolute idiots because they haven't been given a job. They don't know what they're supposed to do. They just are given free reign of the house and do whatever they want, and run around like crazy hooligans and have no manners. And yeah, they're just, and they tend to be the biters too. Yeah, temperament is the big issue there. Honestly, there are more Chihuahuas out there that I have come to know and like than either Huskies or German Shepherds, to be completely honest. And I know that's absolute heresy, but it's accurate. So, don't like G-Sheps, don't like Huskies. I'm sorry. Not real fond of Dachshunds, but that's just because Dachshunds are also drama queens, and there's not much you can do about that. I think part of that, honestly, is to agree with you on that one. I think part of that is the fact that German Shepherds are not well trained nor well socialized. They are highly anxious, and I'm not really sure why, but they do seem to be. And it just kind of is what it is. I don't know if we just indiscriminately bred them all till they were that way, or what we did wrong in that regard, but we have created the monster, and now we have to live with it. I have met good German Shepherds, do not get me wrong. There are good ones out there, but I have met so many that I just... It's like, nope, I don't trust you. So anyway, a miniature Staffy. Let me know how that goes. They're miniaturing everything these days. There are mini Aussies now, mini Australian Shepherds. I understand they're trying to do a mini Husky now. Though, from what I understand, it's less of a mini Husky and more of a full-sized, not Skipper Key, not Keyshawn. Kleekai. Kleekai. There we go. Ow. Ow. Shit. Ow. Fuck. Nope. Died. Son of a bitch. I have to do that all over again. So yeah. Oh, I'm certain it'd be a mix, but it'd still be a cute mix. All right. Well, that was a very different stream for me. I know we got really serious there, but honestly, we need to be serious. This is something that is serious. It affects people's lives and should be taken seriously. So to that end, I hope everybody at least has a chance to kind of reflect on how these things go, how they impact other people, and spread the word, honestly, that if somebody... teenager, a child, anybody of any ethnicity or background is looking to potentially get into veterinary medicine, encourage them. Tell them, to look me up. I mean, shoot, I've given interviews before to kids for class projects. I'm more than happy to inspire as many folk who want to chase this dream as I can. It is a dream worth chasing, and I really do think that we as a community would be better served if we had greater representation. So, until then, COVID-19 is still a thing. please, everybody, wear your masks. I know they suck. Wear them anyway. It's not just about you. Wash your hands. Stay at home as much as you can. Avoid public gatherings. And just stay safe. Just because it's summertime doesn't mean you can't get sick. We're starting to see a spike from all the people who wanted to have haircuts back on Memorial Day. So be safe, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Watch the Twitter for the next poll. See you soon.